Good evening, Father. Good evening, brothers and sisters in Christ. Pax, thumbs up. With a round of applause, let us invite Mrs. Pascaline Atuguba to give us today's talk.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Father. Good evening, brothers and sisters in Christ. Pax, thumbs up. Pax ladies. Pax gentlemen. The gentleman, I didn't hear what you said. Anyway, thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you this evening about relationships. The topic is very loaded. I was asked to speak about relationships, friendships, dating, and marriage from the Catholic point of view. So I'm going to try as much as possible I don't want to talk a lot because I know you have a lot of questions. So I think I'll leave a lot of time for interaction. So I won't talk plenty. Now, when we talk about relationships are very important in everybody's life. A relationship is very important in that we relate at different levels. I just typed in the word relationship in Google just to see what it would tell me. And it said it's a connection, an association, or an involvement. So it's a connection between persons by blood or marriage, an emotional or other connection between people. And as human beings, we relate at different levels. Okay, as students, as you are seated here right now, you have course mates you relate with at different levels. You have church mates you relate with, both when you are on campus and when you are back at home. You know, you relate with your lecturers as students, with your parents, with your siblings. So relationships exist across, the various aspects of our lives. And so our lives are basically full of relationships. And all of these relationships, each of them has its dynamics and rules governing the relationship. You can't walk to your father and start saying, Chale, so and so and so. You would say it to a friend. If you are not careful and you have a strict father, if you are not careful, you'll be in trouble. So each relationship has its dynamics, its rules. Some of the rules are not written, but we just know that you don't go to certain extents with certain people. You can't walk to your lecturer and start speaking pidgin like you speak to your course mates. Imagine what your lecturer will say to you or say about you. Some lecturers are cool like that. They like to flow with you and all, but they're very strict Gold Coast ones. You can't walk to them and start speaking pidgin to them. So every relationship has rules that govern these relationships. And as I prepared for this, I came across 4 basic types of relationships. Family relationships, we have friendships, we have acquaintances, and then we have romantic relationships. I know that's what you want to hear about, but I'll come there soon. God didn't create us to be islands. Does anyone here believe that you are an island? Or that you exist on your own and you are able to make it on your own? Do you believe in that? So our lives depend on how we relate with each other. Yeah, even when we look through the Bible, the Bible talks about different levels of relationship. The parable of the Good Samaritan, for instance, from Luke 10:25 to 27. Who is a neighbor? Then Jesus decides to tell this parable about a man who went on a journey and was beating, and those who helped him and those who didn't help him and all of that, teaching us that it is important that we live with each other in love, no matter where the person is coming from, no matter who the person is. Last Sunday in the gospel, we read about the woman who was caught in adultery, for instance. It's also a teaching on relationship, not to judge people, in certain ways when you know that you yourself, you are not perfect and all of that. So the Bible itself generally talks about how we should relate with each other as human beings. And I've grouped how we relate, what informs our relationships with each other into 3. First of all, I have what we call nature. Let me start with nature first. Our nature, who we are, our temperaments, Our temperaments are basically the manual we came with as a human being. Okay? Who you are, your nature. I don't want to go into temperament because that's another discussion on its own. But it's important to know who you are, your nature. Okay, and these temperaments are grouped into two broad groups, which are the introverts and the extroverts. Introverts, like the word itself, people who keep to themselves, they like to be by themselves. Extroverts, they're happy-go-lucky people. Wherever you are, you hear them before you see them when they are entering a room and all that. So our nature depends on how we relate to people. For instance, let me just give an example of someone who is a phlegmatic, for instance, the slow people, the laid-back people, and all of that. So the person approaches everything in that slow and laid-back nature. The next one is nurture, our nature, how we were brought up, the environment in which we were brought up in. So for instance, if you come from a home where maybe there's been a very bad marital experience, for instance, and all you hear your mother saying is that men are bad, men are not to be trusted, men are this, all negative things about men. That is the perception, if you are not careful, you have about men. Or a father who keeps saying that, oh, as for women, they'll just spend your money and go away. So for you, as for women, when they come into your life, all they want is your money and all of that. So that is nature, how we were brought up, the kind of things we heard and all that. There are certain people also for nature who they just see a woman and they see a sex symbol. A woman is a sex, so they don't treat women right. All they want for a woman is sex, and that's it. She has no value apart from that. So that is also nature, the way you were brought up, because that's what you saw happening. The third one, which depends on you, it's your decision. Your decision to unlearn negative nurturing, your decision to unlearn negative character traits. And that is what helps you to relate better or in a good way to other people. Why am I spending time explaining all of these general relationship issues? Because those are sometimes the baggages or the perceptions or the behaviors that we take into the kind of romantic relationships we get into. Because we're always expecting this from the person. We are like this, and so we expect that. We have formed perception, like I said. If you have a perception of women in a certain way or men in a certain way, then you enter into a relationship with those perceptions, which will not help you. Now, let's look at what you've called me here to talk about. Relationships. The romantic type of relationships. I know that's what you want to hear. Before you enter into a relationship, following from what I've said about general ways of relating, ask yourself, why do you want to enter into this exclusive relationship with one person? When I do my one-on-one counseling, my first question I asked my counselees is, among all the men you've met in your life, in school, in church, wherever, why have you chosen this particular man? Or among all the women that you've met, why have you chosen this particular person? Is it because of the person's beauty or handsomeness? Because the person is the coolest guy or girl on campus? Because the person you think has money or has coming from a rich background? Is it because the person is brilliant and you think that, oh, this person will do all my assignments for me, I can go to sleep? You are laughing because you answer me later. What is your motive for entering into that particular relationship? So one of the first things you ask yourself is, why do I want to enter into this relationship? Your motive. Motive is very important. Are you looking for just a sexual partner because you feel like, oh, you want to expend your sexual energy, so let me get the next girl available who is ready to flow with me? Ask yourself, why do you want to enter into an exclusive relationship? Secondly, what are your values? What values do you hold dear to yourself? You can't live this life without values, I can assure you. There's a saying, I'm sure most of us have heard that if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. You must have value, and especially as Catholics and Christians, you must have values. Are you an honest person, for instance? If you don't have honesty as a value, as one of your values, then it's very easy for you to keep 3 girlfriends, 3 boyfriends, and be comfortable with it. Because you don't have honesty as a value in the first place. You are not honest. So you can lie to 1, lie to 2, lie to 3. Call you, where I am, where am I, where are you now? You are in Legon Hall, you are in Volta Hall, but you say you are in Legon Hall. You are not an honest person. What are your values? What godly principles do you live by? For instance, what are your views, for instance, on sex before marriage? What are your views on it? So that if there's a guy you are interested in and he walks to you and says that, if you don't have sex with me, that's it, we are done. And because of that, you allow yourself to, what is your value? What are your values regarding that? So it's very important to have values, to know what your values are. What do you stand for? You must believe in yourself. Some people, they rely too much on validation. If no guy is telling me that I'm beautiful, or no guy is telling me that he wants to go out with me, then I'm useless. You must believe in yourself as a human being. And don't allow anyone to validate you before you know who you are. You must know who you are and be confident. These days, we have a lot of people saying that you must have affirmations. Every day when you wake up in the morning, look inside the mirror and say something positive about yourself. If people begin to realize that you rely on validation, they would keep using you left, right, and center. I don't think any of us want to be used like that. Above all, you need to pray about your choice. You need to pray about your choice. I know now we are in school, so sometimes the choices we make are based on this level of what we can see. Many relationships that start on campus do not end in marriage. Do you believe that? Okay, so you know already. Because when you leave the walls of this university, your priorities change, life happens, you encounter many challenges, your mind or your perception about relationships and marriage and other things begin to change. Now it's even worse because the hardships are even more difficult out there. If you are in school now and you are being catered for by a guardian or by parents, you go out there, sometimes at the point you need to take care of yourself. So your priorities change and all of that. You must pray about your choice. And this is very, very important. Very, very important. A lot of the time, we rely on the way we feel about somebody and make a decision to go to date the person or not. But you must pray about your choice. You must pray about your choice. Now, a romantic relationship, is not a relationship where, or let me call it a premarital relationship. It's not a relationship where you solve your money issues. So you are looking at someone who can pay your school fees. Someone here nowadays, to date a girl on campus, you have to give iPhone. I hope our Pax ladies are not like that. Wait. I don't want to believe that our Pax ladies are like that. I hear that you have to be able to provide iPhone. You have to be able to give chop money in quotes and all that. Please, a premarital relationship is not a time that you use to take care of yourself financially. Imagine you are both in school and you expect that a schoolmate like yours, whose school fees are being paid by somebody, will get you an iPhone. You have started on the wrong note. Sorry to tell you that. Remember the man who built his house on sand? What happened to it? When the wind came, what happened? It fell. And I like the way the Bible puts it, and what a great fall it was. You must build your relationship on a solid foundation, not on things that, if tomorrow the person doesn't have money, what happens? Or he uses his school fees to buy you that iPhone. What happens? It means that you are nurturing a thief or somebody who is not honest because he would always try to find the money to please you. Pax gents, are you here? If you are eyeing some young lady and she's asking you for iPhone and those things, it's not a way to start at all. You end up pleasing her your whole life on this campus. And sometimes if you are not careful, you will steal money to do it. Or you use your school fees or all your pocket money and you go and sit in your room while she's eating fried rice, you'll be chewing gari. So please, a premarital relationship is not a time for looking for sponsorship for your money issues. As I said earlier on, a premarital relationship is not a sexual union. And I stress on it, it is not a sexual union. We know, as we are seated here, that sex is the preserve of who? Married people. So it is not a time to be experimenting at all. Can you imagine by the time you leave school, maybe you've dated 3 people and with all of them you've had sex? It means that you are carrying I don't know how to describe it, but it is just not a way to go in a relationship. I know we've heard it many times, but I'm emphasizing it. If you don't believe, sex is, how do you call it? If you don't believe in the sanctity of sex, like there are people who are like that, just think about the fact that a man and woman have sex and they are capable of creating another human being. You are not ready to create a human being now, and you are using all the time in your relationship to do this, instead of getting to know the person better. Your whole life is fixed, or your relationship is fixed on sexual exploration. It won't go far for you. So please, let's take note of these things. I know that as I speak, I'm sure some of you are wondering, but it's not that easy. When you look all around you, people equate normal relationships to sexual relationships and all that. I would say that stay connected to the source. Stay connected. I keep saying this. We all use mobile phones, don't we? And when you charge your phone and you are away from your charger all day, what happens to your battery life? Your battery life keeps going down. It's the same way we must see our relationship with God, that once we disconnect from God, it's very easy for us to fall. And so if you are the type of person who wants to go into a good relationship, who is looking towards the future goal, like a marriage, and good marriage, for instance, you will stay connected to the source, which is God. Very, very important. Now, one of the questions I was given to answer was, how do you know if someone is interested in you? I'm sure we all know that when somebody is interested in you, well, there's no one answer for this. There's no one answer for this. People show their interest in different ways. Sometimes, if you are not careful, you will read the interest wrongly. I remember when I was a student like you on campus, we used to, the guys used to tell us, that the past guys used to tell us that what they hate is when you realize that one is coming close to you, and you be talking and say, oh, you are like my brother. You start calling the person brother. Then they get angry. So the best way, if you are interested in somebody, open your mouth and say it. Don't feed perceptions, or else you'll be disappointed, especially for my young ladies. The ladies, we are so we easily fall for people. So if you are not careful, somebody will take you for granted. There are men too who are like that. There are young men who are like that. So it's very important, if you are not sure, don't invest your emotional everything inside the relationship. Take note of that. I know you'll ask more questions regarding this. There's a question asking if there's a required age for entering into a relationship with the opposite sex. And I would say no. It's about maturity. But what's most important is that at this time of your lives when you are in school, it is expected that you are focusing on building yourself academically, socially, and above all, spiritually. So those are the things you should focus on. If you happen to get into a relationship, you must conduct yourself in a way that helps you to be able to achieve all of these things: your spiritual growth, your social development, and your academic development. Is very, very important. We all know that these days things are really tough and hard out there. I'm sure you know of people who have finished school and don't have jobs and all that. So it's very important that you don't distract yourself in relationships that will take you off your focus in life. It's asking me, what should one look out for before entering into a relationship with the opposite sex? I think I've touched on some of the issues, like issues of values. What are the person's values? What values do the person hold dear? If you are the type of person who is known on campus as a heartbreaker, that's the perception people will have of you. No one will take you seriously. During my time, I knew some guys on campus who everybody knew that all their plan was that they will have a list of girls to floor by the time they leave the university. Are you that kind of person? So these are some of the things you look out for. What is the person's connection with God? Not just someone who says that or outwardly shows that he's a Christian or he's a staunch Catholic, but someone who actually acts like one. Very important. They are two different things. How long should one be in a relationship with the opposite sex? As I said, most relationships on campus here, they don't end up in marriage. I'm not discouraging you, but I'm just stating a fact. Most relationships here do not end in marriage. So if you're asking me how long you should be in a relationship with the opposite sex, I can't give you an answer. Because hardly do people leave their first degrees and go and get married. Hardly. These days, most people, those times, people would work for a while and come back to school. These are many young people immediately after school, after they finish their degree, finish national service, they are going back to school. And for most people, until they have a master's and have a stable job, they don't get married. So if you happen to be in that, you are in level 100, you still use the term grabbed. Hey, you have grabbed somebody. In my day, we used to talk about that. He has grabbed. It means that she's in a relationship. What term do you use? Pardon? I can't hear you. Bind. What? Interesting. Okay, so let's go back to them. So I can't tell you how long. It is your decision or what the relationship offers you or what your plan is for life, you and your partner. If you come to level 100 and you grab somebody, 100, 200, 300, 400, maybe national service, masters, how long is that? 6 years already. Someone says 8. So it all depends on you. And I repeat again, most relationships that start on campus do not end in marriage. Who do you seek help from in a relationship? There are lots of people you can seek help from. In this parish, we have a marriage and family life committee. Father is there. You can always talk to Father. His arms are always open. And he's not the only priest available. There are many priests. On the University of Ghana campus, we have the Careers and Counseling Center, where you can speak to somebody. When you are going, sometimes I know that some people can enter into very burdensome relationships that begin to affect your academic work, begin to affect your spiritual development, begin to affect all aspects of your life. Please don't keep it to yourself. Speak to somebody. Don't go and commit suicide because you will die and that person will live and enjoy. Very important. Speak to somebody if you are going through relationship issues. So I think I will end here. I've given a background to what I want to talk about, and then we'll use the next how many minutes to listen to your questions and your contributions. Thank you very much.
So we thank our sister Pascaline for what he has shared with us. As he said, we will learn more through the interactions that will follow. So if you have any question to ask, if you have anything to share, please come forward. We'll give you the microphone. You just pass it on, and then we'll continue from there. Yes, any question?
Or if you felt I didn't touch on something and you want me to stress on it or touch on it, just raise it and then I'll do that.
So come forward. What I want to say, as far as relationships are concerned, is that, my dear brothers and sisters, it is not cool to be gay. I'm going to repeat that. It is not cool to be gay. These days, that is what seems to be portrayed through social media, through movies. It's like all the cool guys are gay. It is not. Don't be deceived. You watch a movie and you see a handsome guy just for you to get to know that he's gay. You see a beautiful girl and then she's lesbian. It's not cool. So don't let anybody deceive you that the cool guys are those who are gay. So if you are not, cool, then maybe you are something else. It is not. Don't let anybody deceive you. To be gay is not normal. It is not. It is not normal. So if you have a homosexual tendency, you need help. You need help. It is not okay. Don't let anybody deceive you. Don't let anybody deceive you. Don't be deceived by social media. Don't be deceived by mass media. Don't be deceived by other gay people. Don't let anybody deceive you. It is not the way that God has made it. God made a man and a woman. That is how it will be forever and ever. It won't change. It won't change. So I'm repeating it. It is not cool to be gay. It is not.
And maybe to add to what Father is saying, there are some people who are intentionally, throwing, because of the economic situations we find ourselves in. You may meet a man as a young boy who's trying to sell this whole gay thing to you. You need to make a decision on that and flee from it. And it's real. It is very, very real. So, and it also means that you have to avoid certain places. I'm saying this because many years ago, I think when I was a student, there was someone who was many years behind me, and this was another friend who shared with me. This was a young boy who was very active, who, you know how sometimes when people see you, the person behaves like a girl and things like that. And I think he found himself or something like that in a club. And these gay people approached him and started making, he was strong enough to resist it, but I'm just trying to say that you need to avoid certain places where some of these things are rife or happen.
So let's take your questions, please. If you have any, come forward, please. Don't be shy. I know you are not going to the seminary or to the convent, so come and ask questions about your future.
While we are waiting for the questions to come in, Father, I also wanted to add another thing also, because also I'm hammering on the economic situation because it's making a lot of people do things they ordinarily wouldn't have done. There are also a lot of older women, who are looking for strong, handsome young men like you to get into relationships with, and they'll be sponsoring you and giving you money. Be very careful. I know that most of the time we talk about the ladies and sugar daddies, but this is also a trend that is coming up. Be very careful.
So let's take your questions, please. Come forward if you have a question. I don't want the microphone to go round.
Thank you, Father. So I wanted to ask that, is it wrong for a Catholic maybe to date a Muslim? Because I feel like both believe in God and he has the values you're talking about. Not that I'm talking about me, but the values is there. So I want to know if it's wrong or, yeah.
Okay, this one I think I'll defer to Father. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. My question is, how do we strengthen the family and the role of the church in grooming young people who are being influenced by social media to engage in perversions in relationships? Okay, so in response to the first question, if there are any, just come forward so that when we are done, you ask your question. These days, it's very common to have interfaith marriages. That is the question she's asking about. Even though personally, my recommendation will always be that you go out with somebody you share the same faith with. And even for a Christian, you go out with somebody who is a Catholic like yourself. Because religion can become very thorny in a relationship, especially when it turns into marriage. When you are dating, everything is beautiful, everything is nice. The moment it becomes marriage, the dynamics will change. So for instance, you can be going out with a Muslim guy who doesn't have a problem with the fact that you are Catholic. Sometimes, even on Sundays, he will follow you to church because he's gone to his mosque on Friday. He doesn't have anything to lose by following you to church on Sunday. But the moment he marries you, he would expect that the children all will become Muslims. And if you are not in favor of that, you can leave and the children will remain. Again, for somebody who is Muslim, he is entering into the marriage with his understanding of what marriage is in Islam. And as far as Muslims are concerned, they can marry 2, 3, 4 wives if they are able to afford. So you'll be in the house one day and a second wife will come. And a third will come. And you have to prepare to live together with all of them. If you are not ready, you just pack your things and go. So there are issues that come up in interfaith marriages. And because I want to spare you of that, my recommendation is that go out with somebody. I mean, you can't tell me that of all the Catholic guys in this university, you can't find one handsome dude to go out with. What are you talking about? Please, I'm serious about this. But if you feel that this Muslim girl or this Muslim guy is the person you want to go out with, then prepare for the consequences. Don't walk into it blind. Know that certain things will happen. And like I'm saying, when you are dating, you don't experience it. When you are dating, you don't see it. When it becomes marriage, then you will see what life is all about. So the Catholic Church is not against you marrying somebody of a different faith. No. The only thing that will be required is that you write a letter. The priest will help you to write a letter to the bishop to tell the bishop that you want to marry somebody who is not a Catholic. Maybe the person is another denomination or the person is another religion. So when the bishop gets that letter, you go through the reasons why you are taking such a decision and then he will approve. So far, in my 14 years as a priest, no bishop has disapproved such a relationship or such a marriage. No. He will normally sign. He will normally give you the go-ahead. But there are conditions. And the bishop would expect you to fulfill those conditions. The conditions are basically two. One, that you, the Catholic, will remain Catholic for the rest of your life. That's the first condition. So the fact that you are going to marry a pastor in another church, if you're a Catholic lady, doesn't mean you are going to become Osofumami in that church. If you want to marry in the Catholic Church, then you have to promise the bishop that you will remain Catholic. So that is the first condition. The second condition is that you will do your best to raise your children as Catholics. That is the second condition. And it's the most difficult condition. If you don't have a partner, a non-Catholic partner who is understanding, you are going to have serious issues there. I know marriages that I officiated which are having such problems as we speak. They call me all the time. They are having issues because of the children. And these were people who, when they were going out, they would come to my office and they are holding each other and touching each other and they were so cool with each other. Now they are fighting because children have come in. Because children have come in. Where should the children go to church? It has become an issue. So these things we are talking about, the implications are enormous. So please, when you are going into a relationship, open your eyes. Open your eyes. The second question our brother asked, I think part of it is what we are doing, like this evening, to help us to understand what the Catholic Church requires in our present day, where there are counter values. There are counter values. What the church is teaching, others are teaching opposite it. And making you, if you're a Christian and if you're a Catholic, making you feel odd. It's like, as for you, you don't know what's up. You are not part of the current trend. That is how sometimes they make you feel. But through some of these teachings, through some of these activities, we help to bring out what the church requires of us, what the Word of God requires of us in terms of relationship,
and what is expected. So this is what I will say regards to
I
the
think
question.
he also mentioned the issue of social media. My dear brothers and sisters, not everything you see on social media is real. People struggle and then they polish their faces and come and sit on social media and behave as if life is good. One of the things I keep telling young people, especially those who follow the so-called celebrities, you need to be very, very careful. You see the glamour. Somebody comes and is driving a Range Rover or some other car, a Lexus or something like that. You are looking at it and you are like, hey, me too, I want one. Oh. Sometimes you don't know the story behind this. Apart from that, there are also people who are involved in all kinds of dark deeds. We've all heard about Sakawa and all of those things. It's very important to stay away from those things. Live your life. When you start working, live within your means. That's why I spent time to talk about values. What are your values? For instance, what are your values in this life that you've come to? Are you the get rich by all means quick person? Then if you are the get rich by all means, you click with people who do that and shape your life according to that. So please, instead of living your life on social media, I would advise you, get some biblical role models. Model your life. Personally, I have modeled my life around Esther. I discovered Esther some years ago, and she's been like my model in life. For young girls, I recommend Esther. Mary, our mother Mary, for instance. For the gentleman, Joseph. There are many men in the Bible you can always...
Don't learn from Solomon. Any more questions?
Father, accept his wisdom.
Any more, please? Come forward. Yes.
Please, I have 2 questions. The first one is, I want to know if it's all right for a lady to ask out a guy she's interested in. Because sometimes when that happens, either the guy doesn't take the lady seriously or the lady is seen as cheap. And my second question is that with dating, must it always be that your goal is to get married to the person? Because maybe you are exploring, you want to have fun, get to know the person, and like that's why you are getting with the person. Yeah.
Okay, Auntie Pascal, I want you to differentiate between concerning yourself with your partner and being overprotective. What's the difference between being concerned about your partner and being overprotective? And then also, shouldn't you be able to discuss issues that you think you have a problem with your partner? And in that case, should it arouse like other issues, or should it make the person upset? Thank you.
Mother, can I take the 2 before? Or I'll miss the first question. I think I missed the first question before. Should you ask? I thought that nowadays the latest people, the girls, they are bold enough to do that. It's I don't know whether to say a yes or a no. I know some girls are bold enough. When we were growing up, we were told that you give the guys signals. But I hear the ladies of today, they can walk up to a guy and actually, because of the cultural setting we find ourselves in. Okay, so you tell me. Or you are... Technically, okay. Or the guys should tell us when they think a lady is interested in them, what they see.
Well, I just said, oh my God.
What do you say? Don't whisper. I want to hear.
You just be his friend, get to know him to see if, like, get to know him from a distance or close, but not really as a suitor. Yes.
Yeah, don't get a sign language.
Because of the cultural setting we find ourselves in, most of the time, if you are a girl who is that forward, then you must be one who is ready to face anything that comes after that. Because The guy will go and tell his roommates that, hey, Charlie, this girl came, this and this, and if he's not interested and all that. And it could affect your confidence moving around. I can't say a yes or no. As I said, we are different. We are different. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with asking somebody you think you are close to, oh, I mean, we've been friends for a while. Where is this leading us to? I don't think that. And then from there, you can judge what the person is thinking about you. So sometimes you need to be wise about these things. And I also mentioned when I was talking that you need to pray about these things as well. The second one was, must you, by all means, get married to somebody you are dating, somebody you are in a relationship with? I can't say yes and no again, because in the course of the relationship, you may find out certain things or see certain things that you think you cannot live with in marriage. And that is when you walk away. If the person is abusive, for instance, if the person doesn't respect you, for instance. So it doesn't always have to end. I mean, at this stage, you are learning about each other. You are getting to know each other. What are the person's likes? What are the person's values? Values, I'm hammering on it again. But if at a point in time you realize that this doesn't align to my values, you walk out. Because once you get into marriage with it, you are a Catholic too. You can't get out of it. You have to just manage. Have I answered your question? There was a question about the difference between being concerned and overprotective. I think that I'll link it to the same issue I'm talking about regarding relationships. If you have in a relationship with somebody and you can't speak freely about what concerns you or how you feel, and that person takes offense, it's a signal for you to be careful. It's a signal. I don't know if it's a signal for you to be careful. As human beings, we get better when we accept correction. Or when somebody tells us, they said that it's in account that the one who is making the path does not know that it's crooked. It's someone who stands behind. So if we are helping each other, and it's going to get worse in marriage, because then you'll be living under the same roof, and the person will be telling you that, oh, I don't like the way you put this here, put that here, and then you always get angry and all that. That will not work for you. So by all means, express concern. But if your partner feels that you are being overprotective or overbearing, then it's a signal for you to watch out for that aspect of the relationship. Yes. And then you talked about something about, I think it's all about communication. How do you feel in the relationship? You must be free to express. If you are not free to express yourself in a relationship, then my brother or sister, you might be wasting your time. Have I answered your question?
Mrs. Atuguba, please, you didn't talk about friendships in romantic relationships. So is it not important to be friends with your partner in a relationship or in marriage? And my second question is, could you touch a bit more on boundaries in relationships and especially friendships?
My question is, in the instance where you have there is a person you are interested in, and both of you are aware that you have mutual interest in each other, but it's not a relationship, like it's not defined as a romantic or exclusive relationship.
We used to say more about understanding. I don't know if you still say that, or more about understanding.
Like a
you
talking
both know
stage.
that you like each other,
Okay.
but you are not saying anything. We
Yeah.
used to call it understanding in my days.
Okay. You see, in the case where you've not known the person long, it's advised that you take your time to get to know the person. But I remember one time in secondary school, our priest told us that if you are in any relationship that cannot be defined, it is unhealthy for you. So in that instance, what do you do? Like, what defines a talking stage? Also, is it wrong to be talking to more than one person at a time? For instance, as a lady, about 3 people have expressed interest in you, and so you are talking to all of them because you can't leave all your eggs in one basket, per se. Per se. Yes. What do you advise that as a Catholic you do in that instance? And the third question is that we are told that premarital sex is wrong, but how about other forms of physical touches? Like, what's the church's view on that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Please, my question is, I have 2 questions. What do you do with a crush? If you have a crush on someone, what are you supposed to do?
When you have a crush,
Yes.
on somebody.
And my second question is, how do you get out of a toxic friendship? You realize that sometimes we have some friendships that are very draining. How do you get out of that?
You mean a friendship with the opposite sex?
Not
Or it can be with...
a female or a male. How do you get out of it?
All right. So I think the first question was on, I hope I got it right. Is it the one on boundaries? What should the boundaries be in relationships? As in, but I think I mentioned one of them. One of the first one I mentioned was that if you are just in a relationship, it should not be a sexual relationship. The second aspect is that boundaries, as I said, every relationship has its dynamics and all of that. You can't, without a lady's, let me just use this quite explicit example. Without a lady's permission, just go and hold her breasts. You are not respecting her boundaries. You understand what I mean? You just get up and start doing that as a young man. It doesn't, I don't know if I'm making sense to you. Is that your question when you talk about boundaries? Okay, then let me hear it again.
Please, I meant boundaries in friendships, not romantic.
In friendships, okay. So I guess that's what, it depends on the kind of friendship you are in and how open you are to each other. There are some people, they are your friends, but for instance, they don't talk about their family. You have to be wise sometimes about the relationship. Maybe the person is going through some issues in the family and never talks about the family. Depending on how close you are with the person, you can say, oh, I've never heard you speak about your family before. And depending on the person's reaction, you know that this is a no-go area in this friendship. So you need to be wise about, if you're in a friendship with somebody, you need to be wise about some of these things. Some people are very jumpy about certain issues. You start to talk about it and their facial expression changes. Then it's for you to realize that, no, this person is not comfortable talking about issues like that. So I think that is basically just knowing what is uncomfortable for the person and understanding the person. And sometimes assuring the person that, oh, if you want to talk about this thing, I'm ready to listen to you. And sometimes the reason why people don't open up is because they can't trust us, because they think that if I tell Amma my issue, Akosua will hear and all that. So once the person opens up to you, you need to respect the person's privacy, for instance, and then that's how you just be wise about it and observe, really. Your first question was, you asked the first question. I've written it down, but I can't read my own handwriting. Yes. Okay, so that's very important. Whether you should be friends with your partner before you get married, I would say that it's very, very important. Very important. You need to be friends. You need to be able to talk about anything and laugh about anything. Because a point will come in your marriage when all you have is the friendship, and that's what will keep you. You need to be able to be open about each other, joke about things, laugh about things without getting offended. Friendship is very, that's the basics of the relationship. That is why, for instance, people don't condone things like marriages that are arranged, where the two people don't even know each other. And they tell you, when you marry, you get to love each other. No. At a point in time, when you get married, love takes a different meaning. It's no longer the feeling, and when you see the person, your heart starts to skip a beat and all of that. No. Love begins to take on. So it's a friendship that sustains the marriage, that you can sit with your partner and have a chat. You can share a joke about something. You can even joke about yourselves without getting angry and all that. So friendship is important in marriage. Yeah. Then the next one was on, before you asked about the physical touches, there was a question before. That is not defined. Okay, thank you. The one that they said you'll be wasting your time if... I don't know why you should hang on to a relationship that is not defined as a normal friendship. Okay? So are you talking about with the opposite sex? So maybe there's somebody you go to, maybe you come to church together, you're always seen together, but there's nothing really going on between the two of you. I think that if you should consider it just as a normal relationship. If it changes when one of you starts to express interest in the other, that changes. Oh, you've expressed, okay. I don't understand. How can you express interest in each other and not define it? You've defined the relationship already. Once you start to express interest in each other, you have already defined the relationship. You understand what I mean? It has moved from a normal friendship to, and then your definition of that relationship means that you are entering into an exclusive relationship, right? So it means that you are forsaking all other people. So I must not see you in, a certain situation with another person, because then we are in a relationship which has been, if you've defined it already. Once you begin to express interest, you can't say that, oh, I think I love you, okay, let's keep it like that, and that is it. No, you've defined it already. It's already defined. Yeah. And then you talked about physical touches in relationships. Physical touches in relationships. Okay, what do you hope to achieve through the physical touches? That's the question I throw back to you. What do you hope to achieve? Affection. Are there other ways you can show affection? Okay, so you've answered your own question. So the physical touches bit, you see, the human body is very interesting. It's like lighting a match. Once you strike a match, what happens? It burns all the way down. If you begin to involve yourself in certain physical, that spike, you go and sleep and all you are dreaming was how you were feeling when the person was touching you. It's very dangerous. You will move from one stage to the other the next time. You understand what I mean? So it's better to keep those boundaries. If you are just in a normal relationship, you need to restrict yourselves. Have I answered your question? Where is the line? I've drawn the line already.
I want to add a bit to what Aunt Pascaline has said. In the moral teachings of the church, there's no physical touching. There's none. Do you understand? Physical touching is prelude to sex. So if you are not ready to have sex, don't touch. It's as simple as that. Do you understand? Because you can't touch without eating. So if you are not ready to eat, don't touch. It's as simple as that. Do you understand? Abakuma, do you understand? You. So please, let's take we'll take the last two. Come forward.
We'll take the last more questions.
Yes, then after this we'll take the last two and we'll end. So please go on.
If you have a crush on somebody.
Yes.
So you see the person and you are excited. Is that it? You want to be around the person all the time. It depends on whether that is reciprocated or not. If the person is not minding you, and you are trying all your best to see that I'm here, and the person is not minding you, I think that is a bit, and the person is not really your friend, I think that is a waste of time. I mean, we all meet people we admire, and want to get close to and all of that. But when it's beginning to bother you, like you can't think straight, when you see the person, you are confused. When you see the person, you can't even open your mouth and talk, then it's getting dangerous. You need to do something about it, to talk to somebody about it. Yeah. And then there was one about how to get out of a toxic relationship, friendship. You don't need to be there in the first place if it's toxic to you. Just walk out, that's all. It is you. I mean, you have to get to a point in your life where you think about your own self. If it's not doing anything for you, what are you staying in that friendship for? Get out of it. There are more, friendships, beneficial friendships you can enter into. Have I answered your question to your satisfaction?
And there's something we learned in a seminary about getting out of a relationship. You need to channel your energy into something else. So that is another way, in addition to what Aunt Pascaline is saying. Just channel your energy into something else. Because relationship takes a lot from you. You may not realize it. Yeah. Okay, so when the relationship is becoming toxic, when it's beginning to affect even your health, focus on something else. You can begin as a Catholic by spending time before the Blessed Sacrament. You can begin from there. And then gradually, you go into something else. Maybe you go into music, you go into some hobby, because that energy that you are spending in that relationship, which is killing you, you have to channel it. Otherwise, it will come back to eat you up. It will always be there, be hunting you. So if you don't channel the energy somewhere else, you always feel you belong to that relationship and should always be there. You need to divert. So that is something we learned from the seminary, which I will share with you. So let's take these 4 people. Please, one question for each of you, and go straight to the point.
Thank you, Father. My question is, how should young people deal with tribal preferences or prejudices coming from parents and families that go against their persons of interest?
So mine is on friendship and relationships. So we've been talking about people and then the opposite sex. So mine is of, let's see, I have a friend who opens up to me that I am gay. And then before, when I was in the ignorant phase, I could relate to the person well. And now, being a Catholic and the Pope's agenda that we shouldn't segregate and stuff like that, what do I do? Is there a special prayer the church has for people like that or situations like that?
Okay, so please, my question is about love languages. You didn't touch on that. Love languages. Yes, please. So if you could please touch.
No, it's a whole...
My question is, what does the Catholic Church say about abusive marriages? Abusive marriages.
Okay, all right. So the first one is how to deal with tribal issues. Like maybe you have somebody in your life and your parents, or, you know, sometimes growing up, we hear in homes, we don't marry from this tribe and all of that. I think that is very important that you take it into prayer first and seek probably the help. I'm sure Father has dealt with more of those cases and can give more information, but you need to seek the help of an adult or a priest who can intervene on your behalf. Because by all means, you want to have your parents approve whoever you are dating or you are getting married to. So you need to do something. You don't just storm out of the house and say that, I don't care what you think, I'm marrying this person. But you need to make an attempt, you know, to solve it. Should I go to the next one? The issue about having gay friends, I think that we've talked about similar to what we said about toxic relationships. I mean, yes, there are people, God loves them. Like we're always told, God loves the sinner and not the sin. So you can still relate to them in a human way, but you don't partake in their sin. Very important to note that.
Yeah, and then you don't lie on the same bed with the person. Yeah. Now that you know the person is gay.
You are careful.
Because in the middle of the night, he can gay you. So you don't try. Knowledge is power, like we say. So what Pascal is saying, that is it. You love the sinner, but not the sin. So you don't break your friendship with somebody who opens up, because it's not easy to open up if you are gay in our society. It's not easy. So if somebody is bold enough to tell you that, Charlie, I'm gay, you don't have to stop working with the person, but you have to be wise. What it means is that you can't expose yourself in the presence of the person without thinking twice. The person has told you he is gay, so he sees you as a woman. That's how he sees you. This is your hard chest. He sees it soft. So you can't just be going half naked in front of the person because you are padis. You are padis, yes, but since he has told you he is gay, you have to be wise. Don't stop talking to the person. Don't stop working with the person, because that is not Christian. That is not charity. But you have to be wise. You have to be wise and not expose yourself like you would normally do with other guys who are not gay. So please, that's my contribution to that. So let's take that.
Somebody asked the question about love languages. I'm sure some of us have read the Gary Chapman book on love languages. It's just basically means that people express love differently. I've heard a lot of married people say, and that recently I got the opportunity of listening to the audio version of it, that after she read, the 5 love languages, it made her relate better with her partner. So some people, they express love by giving gifts. Some express love by words of affirmation. Some express love by acts of service. Okay? And it's important to know these things before you get into marriage, because people express love different. You might want your partner to love you in a certain way, but that's just not how the person loves you. You need to begin to think about how maybe the person will not tell you, I love you, but maybe the person is always ready to give you gifts to make you happy. And I'm talking about marriage. Okay, so if you are preparing for marriage, for instance, it's one of the things that's important you study about, the love language of your partner. Sometimes we kill ourselves, you cry, especially for the women, soak your pillow, that your husband is not telling me, my husband is not telling me that I love you. But maybe he's doing things, or by the time you come from work, he's cleaned the house and cooked. That is how he expresses love. So that's just about what love language. I'm not sure, the one who asked the question, have I answered the love languages question? She's over. Have I answered it? So it's basically how people express love and how they express it differently. And even with the relationships you'll be entering into, it's important, or you are into, to know how the person, so you don't feel like, oh, that's what this person, this is how Kwame expresses love to Amma, so Kofi must express love to me like that. It doesn't work that way. And then, Father, the last question was on abusive marriages. I know that as Catholics, once you are married, divorce is not an option, but there can be separation where the two of you now live apart because of the abuse. The church does not want you to be killed and say, just stay in the abusive marriage, but Father will throw more light.
Yeah, so for instance, if you bring such an issue to us, you bring it to our attention, we will try and trace the history. When did it start? If it started before the marriage, then that marriage is null and void. Sometimes some women accommodate abuse because they think the men will change. So even before the marriage, the least thing, your boyfriend is angry, he wants to slap you, he's kicking things, it's a sign that it can be abusive. Maybe because he's not married to you, he's not touching you, but he's touching other things in your presence. So when the church traces the history and it is discovered that this person had a tendency to abuse even before you were married to him, it nullifies the marriage. You can go your separate ways. But if it's something that just happened, maybe he's not really abusive, but maybe he's frustrated at work, something is happening to him, his mind is not, thinking straight, and he might have acted in an abusive manner on 1 or 2 occasions, he can be talked to through counseling. And such a person can, overcome the tendency, because it is not really his nature to abuse. But where it is consistent, like Aunt Pascaline said, the church will allow you to separate. Move away from the environment. You can go back to your parents. You can stay in your own house. The marriage is there, but you don't need to see the person so that you can keep living your life. So there are situations like that, but they are dealt with on, case by case. There's no one general rule for abuse case, because sometimes it's the woman who is abusing the man emotionally or psychologically. When you are married to a woman and she refuses to give you sex, it's an abuse. But normally they don't talk about that. It's an abuse. You understand? So it can happen the other way also. So it's important that when these issues come up, it's dealt with case by case. But it doesn't even concern you. I don't know why you are worried about abuse. Some of you are not yet married. Maybe the person who asked the question is married, but of course it's not about him. He's asking a general question on how to deal with it. So ladies, please, if you are going out with somebody who has the tendency of hitting you, getting angry, throwing things, please be careful. Please be careful. When you marry the person will start beating you up. It starts, you say, "Agrobesa." If you are not, you see the signs of it. So please open your eyes. Open your eyes. So I'll ask Pascaline to say her final words, and then I'll also say one or two things and we'll end. It doesn't mean we've exhausted the topic. There are still so many things to talk about. If you see her around, you can interact with her. If you see me around, you can talk to me about anything that is bothering you. Why is it that you assume because I'm a priest, I cannot talk about relationship? What are you talking about? Before I became a priest, I had a life. So the things that you go through, I've gone through them. So I can help you with my experience. If you don't know, don't assume that because I'm a priest, I don't have feelings. Your final words.
Yeah, so my concluding remarks would be that at this stage of your life, it's very important to make friends. I think there was a question we didn't address about having alternative relationships, 2 or 3 people you are talking to. I hear now that's the term, you are talking to. I think that it's, in a certain way, is deception. If you are making all of them feel that they are the one in your life, I think that is deception. At this stage of your life, I think it's important to interact as much as possible, to make friends, to get to know people. Because some of the relationships you build here on campus will go a long way outside campus. You may not marry the person, but the person might hear of a job opportunity and mention it to you. You might run into somebody in town and the person says, "Oh, I think I know you from Pax Romana. Oh, nice to meet you." And then it might not start a marital relationship, but it will start probably a business relationship or some. So let's be nice to people. Let's interact. Okay? It's not always that you are walking and you are frowned, that nobody can come close to you because you are trying to put a defense mechanism so no one comes close to you. Let's be nice to each other. Let's interact as much as possible. As Catholic students, let's interact with each other. You never know where your future partner will be coming from. So let's be nice and interact. Also, we've also mentioned the importance of prayer in this journey. It is very, very important. If you want to be able to make the right choice regarding relationship and marriage, you need to go to God. You need to speak to God. Tell God right now God knows the kind of person you want in a marriage. He may not give you the same person, but he will give you, something that will make you happy. Invest the marriage you want to have in future. Now is the time to invest in it. When they ask, "Well, what kind of person do you want to marry?" "I want a God-fearing person." Are you yourself God-fearing? So that if God gives you that God-fearing person, will you be able to live with that person? So, my dear brothers and sisters, this is what I have to tell you. As Father said, we are around. If you want to speak some more, I'm always around. I work at the graduate school, just around there. I don't know if I should leave my number.
Yeah, we'll give it to them later.
Yes, so that
let's put our hands together for Aunt Pascaline. So, I think that in this generation, it's more difficult to have a relationship with somebody without thinking about sex, because sex is all over. You go online, it's all about sex. You are watching a small movie, within 5 minutes, sex is on the scene. I mean, it's all around. I dare say, in a day, if you are somebody who is active online, you come across themes on sex not less than 10 times. It's either it is showing up on a screen somewhere, in a movie, in a series, in a conversation, in something funny somebody is sharing. It's all around. It's more challenging now, I believe. When we didn't have internet 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they had their own challenges, but they were not as enormous as you guys are having. So my advice to you, since you are Christians, is that pray for self-control. You cannot be in the university at this level and not have a friend, of the opposite sex. It's not possible. You have somebody who is dear to you, you have somebody who is close to you, but pray for self-control. It's a gift of the Holy Spirit. If you ask the Holy Spirit to grant you self-control for you and for your friend, you'll be able to have a good relationship which may or may not end up in marriage, but will help the two of you. Okay, so please don't take it for granted. The temptations are more, so don't take it for granted at all. Don't take it for granted. Things are happening all around us. Sometimes even in your own hall, the room you are sleeping, somebody is narrowing above you or below you. What do? You can't leave the room. In the middle of the night, you are hearing kum, 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 kum. Where are you going? Where are you going in the middle of the night? You come to the adoration chapel is closed. So where are you going? You can't go anywhere. You can't, can you imagine? Right there in your room. Sometimes in the afternoon, you close lectures, you think you are going to sleep. By the time you go, there's a curtain, in front of a bed, and you don't know what is happening inside there. Narrowing. What do you do? What do you do when you are living in such an environment? Self-control is the gift of the Holy Spirit. Ask for it. My dear friends, ask for it. As a young person, you need it. You need it if you are going to have a good future. Because the relationships you have now will impact on your future. The relationships you have now, they will impact on your future. So don't take it for granted. Ask the Holy Spirit for self-control. And I believe the Holy Spirit is good enough to grant it to you. We'll take our announcements and we'll end it.